Okay, welcome back. So today we've got a quick one. We're back in our Bible study series on the book of Jude. The question is, was the book of Jude written after 70 AD? We're on episode 13, and we're at Jude verse 16, talking about grumblers. So let's get into it. Jude verse 16. These are grumblers, complainers, walking according to their own lusts, and they mouth great swelling words, flattering people to gain advantage. Now we also have James talking about grumbling here. He says in James chapter 5, do not grumble against one another, brethren, lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. So let's note here. James is urging his readers just prior to the Lord's return to avoid grumbling. This way we know James is speaking prior to 70 AD because he obviously, he says, behold, the judge is standing at the door. Jude's mention of grumblers has no urgency related to it. There's no imminent event on the horizon, and there's no time statement here. He's just describing these men who had already crept in, fulfilling the prophecy that Peter had spoken about earlier. So we can consider, Jude is writing after the second coming, which occurred in 70 AD. I know that's no surprise that that was going to be our conclusion today. Our observation, since it was a real quick one, is, in this study series so far, we have primarily compared Jude's epistle to the works of Peter and James, and it's primarily been in Second Peter. But if you notice, this passage in James, verse 5, chapter 5, verse 9, comes a couple of verses after another example we had used from James back a couple of verses ago in our study for Jude. So it's a little section that Jude is taken out of James, and he's got it kind of sprinkled throughout his epistle. So again, we're looking at epistles of Peter and James, and this makes sense as Jude is the brother of James, and also the Bible confirms that Peter and Jude, they moved in the same circles. We saw them in the book of Acts chapter 1 in the same group of people in the upper room after Jesus' ascension. So this makes it clear that Jude used the works of both Peter and James as the foundation for his epistle. And again, I think we can see that Second Peter was primarily that foundation. So we have not needed to search any other New Testament epistle to perform this verse by verse comparison with the book of Jude to find the time statements, which is pretty unique. I mean, we could have drawn from all kinds of different books in the New Testament, all different 27 books, to try to do a verse by verse comparison. But it's interesting just to see the relationship between Peter, James, and Jude. Just knowing that it was probably like a tight knit community, it just makes it more real, more tangible. That you start to almost get into the mind of these guys. It's almost like we get to know them. So again, that was just a little random side thought as we're doing the study, since this was a real short verse we looked at. So in the next episode, we're going to look at verse 17 to 18 in Jude. This talks about mockers. We touched upon this verse earlier in episode 6 when we wanted to establish who wrote first, Peter or Jude, but we are going to expand it because a little more with more detail, and it's a little more interesting when we look at these this verse 17 and 18 in detail. So until next time, contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints. God bless. And again, if you have any questions, comments, just post them there, and we'll see you on the next one.